The story begins with the protagonist was woken up by Rei, a girl who said she had been looking for him and wondered how he could have slipped through on such an important day. He wakes up to see Rei and felt the experience was incredibly vivid, causing him to question if it had been a dream. As he got up, she remarked that he seemed really distant, and even if their relationship was just formal, they were still siblings. She called him Hero, which surprised him. When he looked into the mirror, he saw his own hateful face. Sanjo then mentioned that Limo was waiting for them and that they should hurry. Feeling disappointed, Hiro slammed his hand on the table, thinking it was just a dream, but as he punched, the pain was very real. Sanjo wondered what he was doing. Hiro reflected on whether he had suddenly become Hiro himself. He thought that Sanjo and Hiro were the most hated and troublesome characters in a certain game recently. The entire story centered around a source called Esco, which was well known, but among Yuri game fans, it was considered a masterpiece. The main goal of the game was for the protagonist to find happiness with the heroine, set in the Hojo Magic Academy. Usually, Yuri games placed a heavy focus on simulation elements. He also spent a lot of time customizing weapons and magic, although he never understood why that was part of a Yuri game. It was said that these elements were well integrated, and the way training affected the story added variety that kept the game fresh. The four main heroines were all adorable, and even the side characters were well developed, making him want to romance them as well. Before he knew it, he had been playing for days straight, collecting every CG and scenario, and even reading through the entire art book. One thing that seriously got on his nerves was Hiro, the character who always got in the way of the Yuri elements. The bad reputation of Esco was largely due to him, as he grated on everyone's nerves. Hiro had too much screen time for a Yuri game and was involved in most of the negative events. Even the other characters seemed to treat him as if he gave off a bad aura. This made the boy question whether Hiro even needed to exist at all. The boy remembered that after completing the game 100%, he had gone to a convenience store where he saw a truck speeding toward two children who froze in panic. He couldn't just stand by and watch the Yuri story fall apart, so he rushed to save them but was hit by the truck and died. Then, he woke up as the character Hiro. As he walked alongside his sister Rei, he thought that he must have been reincarnated from that event. Rei called to him, reminding him that the Sanso family dinner was about to begin, and that he shouldn't be disrespectful to the guests since he was merely decoration. At that moment, two ladies were tending to Rei's hair. He agreed, and Rei told him not to open his mouth unless it was to eat, warning that based on his behavior that day, people would only give him even worse labels. He thought her stare was strange. After all, she was Hiro's sister and one of the four main heroines. Rei's role was deeply tied to the Sanjo family inheritance conflict, and unlike the others, Hiro acted more conniving and often lashed out at his sister. Because of this, she quickly assassinated him in the second half of the game. The boy knew much of this was Hiro's own fault in the story, but now that he had reincarnated as Hiro, there was no way those flags would still activate. Finally, they arrived at their destination, and Rei stopped her timer watch, mentioning that they had met just in time. As they walked away, Hiro thought that the affection points might have reset due to his reincarnation, but it didn't seem likely. Rei appeared to realize this only partway through, and there was no hint of affection in her eyes. He resolved to play it safe and avoid getting on her bad side. When he started to nosebleed, Rei handed him a handkerchief and told him to get a hold of himself. Even if it was just symbolic, simply showing up still carried weight as a member of the Sanjo family. He wondered if she understood that. He also thought about how she was approaching him from that angle, and questioned whether acting cold would feel in character for Hiro. Trying to ease the tension, he complimented her by saying she was kind and good-looking, truly a perfect girl. Rei asked what he had just said, and he was surprised that it slipped out. He quickly tried to cover it up, saying it was the wrong thing to say, and meant nothing. Then, he took out a bandage to put on her hand, and when she asked what it was, he explained that he was returning the favor for her handkerchief. He figured that she might have hurt her hand or something because it was red, and she seemed to be in pain when she picked up the watch. He thought she wouldn't want to go into the dinner party like that. Rei wondered why he had done that, and he replied that it was basic courtesy and that her beautiful hands were meant to carry the family's future. She was surprised by Hiro's actions, and a maid angrily shouted at him, asking why he was giving such a cheap item to Rei. Another lady stepped in to replace the inexpensive bandage, but Rei refused to accept it, explaining that she found it rare for someone like Hiro to joke in such a way, and she wanted to commemorate the moment. Hiro wondered if things would actually turn out well and thought it wasn't so bad for him. At first, he insisted that he was not joking and stated that paying taxes by protecting the Yuri was the duty of every Japanese citizen. He then started laughing while saying those things. Rei remarked that Hiro definitely needed to see a doctor and suggested they go since staying there was just a waste of time. Eventually, they entered the banquet, where many people were already enjoying themselves. Hiro was surprised to see girls openly dating other girls as if it were the most natural thing in the world. He felt it was like heaven. This was the world of Esco. Although there were some men present, they mostly stayed in the background, like pebbles by the roadside, and Hiro felt that he was one of them too. Even though he was the heir of the main family, it was Rei who would inherit the Sanju name. Hiro was there only because his position made it unavoidable, which essentially made him a figurehead whom no one bothered to greet. He noticed that Rei was hiding the bandage under her glove, and he wondered if doing that might actually lower her affection points instead. Just as he put his hand on some food, a girl suddenly appeared and stabbed the food with a knife while calling him Mama, then took the food away. Hiro was shocked by her dangerous move. Afterwards, he was standing there when the great aunt, the eldest member of the Sanjo family and the one who pulled the strings behind the scenes, called him over. She told him that starting next year he would be enrolled at the Hojo Magic Academy. He thought it was very sudden and asked why him. She told him to be silent and said he did not have the right to refuse. He thought the Hojo Academy was the main stage for Esco, and even if he got to meet the main characters, it would be later. The aunt warned him that this was not the time to take things lightly. He hadn't realized this before, but then he noticed other ladies growing angry with him for disrespecting the great aunt. They really hated him. The girl was telling her mother that she had messed up, and the mother responded by saying they should finish Hiro off next time. He was told that she had heard Hiro had been begging for money from the branch family, and there were reports piling up that he had used the Sanjo name to threaten people. He was hated to such an extent that no one would be surprised if he were killed any day. The boy thought that even outside the script, Hiro was truly terrible. The aunt added that this was where the Hojo Academy came in. If Hiro studied magic and became independent, he would regain some dignity. Since the Sanjo family directly supported him, no one could touch him carelessly. He thought this was a lie and suspected that the Sanjo family saw it as the perfect chance to assassinate him. She continued that she would at least give him some support and hoped he would do his best. When he got to his room, he reflected that this was what she had said, but he had no idea what she really meant. During dinner, he realized that he still carried the same death flag as in the original story, and at the very least, the main and branch families were planning to get rid of him. Rei's affection level was at rock bottom, but Hiro didn't think she had reached the point of murder yet. However, if things continued as they were, the Sanjo family would kill him just like in the scenario, and he had to avoid that death flag by any means. He wondered what he should do next, realizing that besides the Sanjo family, the main characters were also deeply involved in his death. Either way, he would need to make some kind of move on his own. A maid suddenly appeared behind him, attempting to strike him with something like a stick. Realizing this, he dodged just in time and remarked how close it was, wondering if the assassination squad had already arrived. He questioned who she was, since she wasn't a character from the original story, and assumed she must be a mob character. He also wondered if she had messed up her attempt, and why she had come there in the first place. The maid apologized and explained that the great aunt had told her to deliver something to him. Curious, he opened the package and found a magic catalyst device inside. It was the support she had mentioned earlier. He thought about how, in Esco, magic could only be activated through such tools. He thought that Koki Masamune could obtain the hero's unique magical catalyst device by killing him and stealing it. However, once someone obtained it, they would fall onto a path of corruption where they could no longer romance the heroine. Because of this, he had never really used the device for long, although he already knew how valuable it was. Then, when he took out the sword, he noticed that the blade was missing. The lady also appeared confused, and Hiro wondered why she had made that face and if she had forgotten about the blade. But it was not just any sword. The blade was formed through magic, and luckily the activation formula was still intact. He guessed it was time for the grand reveal, the real form of Koki Masamune. He tried to channel his magic into the sword and attempted to draw the blade again, but it still did not appear, which shocked him. He wondered why the blade wouldn't come out and how he was even supposed to check it. Then a screen opened, and he assumed it was the status screen. He discovered that the catalyst was essentially useless junk, and that there were many problems to solve. Reinforcing their strength had to come first, so he decided that his next step would be to head to the dungeon. The maid asked him if he was heading out, which surprised him and startled him at first. When he turned around, he realized it was the maid who was still there. He told her that she could go home now and expressed his appreciation for her work, adding that he was going to have some fun outside. He left, thinking about going to the convenience store. As he reached the door, the maid called out Baaka. The hero stopped and hurried back to her, asking why she would insult her own master and if there was someone she liked. He wondered if she was giving him a lecture or trying to start a romantic conversation. Curious about her preferences, he asked if there was a girl she was interested in and showed interest in her yuri taste. She realized the conversation was turning into romance talk. Regarding the insult, she explained it was payback for him bullying one of her maid friends the other day, saying he deserved it. She wasn't even afraid that he might fire her from the job. He understood that the previous hero was always finding new ways to be the worst. Then he admitted that, no matter how they looked at it, he had been wrong this time. He bowed to apologize and said he also wanted to apologize to the girl she mentioned. However, since he was running late, he asked the maid to arrange a meeting with the other maid the next day. When he stepped outside, a spare box appeared before him, stating that it was from the Tokyo Management Bureau and asking to see his permit. After he showed it, the box acknowledged that he was the heir of the Sanjo family and that they had already been informed, so there was no need for further verification. He was then free to go. This made him think about the connection to his family. Suddenly, the spare box transformed into a gate that opened into a dungeon. Hiro thought about the singularities that had appeared all over the world, and beyond that door lay a realm of monsters connected to another world. He somehow managed to enter, knowing that the real challenges and pain would begin there. To his surprise, he noticed that the maid had followed him. Hiro asked why she was coming along and what her name was, since they were supposed to meet again the next day. She wondered why he was even in the dungeon, calling it a pointless place for him. She teased whether he was bored with ordinary human girls and if he was now planning to seduce monsters. He pointed out that she was ignoring his questions again. Then she asked about the Hojo Magic Academy. He agreed, saying she must have seen it as well, and admitted that at this rate, he wouldn't be able to make proper use of the Masamune sword. He explained that he was hunting monsters to farm catalysts and gain experience while inside the dungeon. She mentioned that without magic, he couldn't harm the monsters, and that he needed a magic catalyst device to do so. He could buy basic conduits with his score, but he replied that there was no other option. Thinking about his score, he realized he did have a magic catalyst device and decided to check his score and status. He thought that ESCO was a system where behavior, achievements, and social contributions were converted into a score. The higher the score, the better the rank, and that this ranking affected how people were treated everywhere. When he checked, his score was 0, which shocked him, especially since it even appeared in his history. He told the maid about this, and she wondered if it was really true. He explained that in that region, score-based payments were difficult, and it was hard to even obtain daily necessities, let alone magical conduits. Therefore, the Masamune Koki sword remained unusable, and he would have to make do without it. She asked if such items were even sold there. Considering his behavior, she was not surprised that his score was 0. He thought that since it wasn't his debt, he should not have been penalized. She then said that this was exactly why she was suspicious, describing him as a scumbag boy she knew, one who had no intention of training and would never bow his head to anyone, and asked if he really was a hero. He replied that it sounded like his apology had really shocked her. He asked her to relax, saying there was a first time for everything. He admitted that he had gone completely blank the first time he saw Princess Hayaku and assured her that the maid would get used to it gradually. He wondered if he had covered it up well and resolved that he couldn't let his guard down even among ordinary people. Suddenly, a monster appeared, and he realized it was his first encounter, a butch knight, which was fairly tough for a first fight. He thought that if it was just one, he could take his time. However, suddenly, many more monsters appeared. The maid said it was bad because they were spawning too quickly and suggested that they fall back. Then a lady arrived, telling them both to retreat as she continued battling the monsters. She asked if they were newbies in the dungeon. The hero was shocked and wondered what she was doing in such a place. She explained that they should head back before they died. The hero recognized her as Lapis Croûte L'Allumette, one of the 4 main heroines. He knew she was a princess from the elf kingdom, so wealthy that the Sanjo family looked poor in comparison. She was not one of the heroines they were supposed to meet before entering the academy, and he did not want to run into her so early, because in ESCO she was ranked number 1 for executing heroes on the spot. There had even been a time when he was casually executed just for eating some saved ice cream. Lapis came closer and said she helped without thinking, but since he was a newbie, maybe she shouldn't have helped him. She then checked his profile and noticed that his score was 0. She asked if he was using that magic catalyst device. Lapis told him that he should return home quickly and offered to walk him to the dungeon entrance if he wanted. He said that was a relief and that he would head home now. However, she stopped him and asked if he realized how dangerous he was. He replied that he wanted to stay away because he didn't want to die. She wondered who he thought she was. He got confused and then mentioned that she was wearing an elf dress, which he considered somewhat perverted. She was shocked and told him it was formal wear, asking where he had been looking. He said he was not at fault. She then told him that her score was 30,000, a difference of 30,000 points between them, and advised him that he would be better off asking for help in reality. He thought it was funny when she joked around with the protagonist, but when the energy was directed at him, it felt strange. Since he gave no reaction, Lapis asked if he didn't understand her at all, and said that if words didn't work, she would personally train him and told him to get ready. The maid apologized to Lapis for his rudeness and said she would talk some sense into him later. But the hero accepted Lapis's challenge, stating that if he won, he wanted her catalyst. Lapis said that if she lost, she would give him everything, though she believed there was only a 1 in a million chance of that happening. He agreed to the challenge and handed his weapon to the maid. The maid mentioned that Lapis was a well-known archer and didn't look like it, so he should probably forfeit the match. The hero replied that he knew that very well, but had spent a lot of time and effort grinding just to beat her. Lapis said the hero could use a club or whatever weapon he wanted, and as a handicap, she wouldn't move from her spot and would even let him make 10 moves first, if he wished. He rushed to attack her, but she reminded him that he had forgotten his magic catalyst device and warned that there was a limit to how reckless he could be. He thought that the device's high performance was one of the reasons he wanted it, but it could also be equipped on his Koki Masamune sword, so he had to get it no matter what. The hero already knew that Lapis was skilled and quick to react, and although her base stats were above average, she was not suited for close combat, so while she was not bad at it, charging straight at her was basically a guaranteed loss. However, he also knew she would never shoot at an unarmed opponent. He managed to get behind her to take off her magic catalyst device, which caused her to be pushed away. She asked if he was mocking her, but he replied that there would be no more holding back. She then realized her catalyst had fallen off. He had 3 stones with him and drew his Masamune sword, thinking that although she was strong, she still froze when something unexpected happened, as she always did. He gave a slash toward her but stopped just at her neck. She was shocked, and he declared that it was his win. Lapis refused to accept this because her magic device was not working properly. He insisted it was working and that it was her conductor device he was currently using. She was shocked to hear that. The hero explained that he had borrowed it when he passed by her, and that what she had was actually his defective one. Meanwhile, the maid continued battling other monsters. Lapis called him a coward, but the hero responded that there was no such thing as cowardice in battle, and questioned who said they were not allowed to remove their opponent's conductor. He added that she was the fool for underestimating her enemy and holding back. Lapis still didn't believe him, but the hero told her that there would be no more complaints, and, as they had agreed, he was taking everything from her. He added that she had been very generous. She became emotional and told him that he could take just one conductor. The maid was surprised and remarked that this was really unlike him. She warned that if he let the match end with Lapis still crying, she planned to smash him to bits. He was shocked and said the club sounded really nasty. The maid explained that she had been clearing out the mobs that got too close during the duel and had noticed that Lapis was still crying. The hero then reminded her that if they messed up, they would be executed. After that, he returned the catalyst to Lapis, and she agreed. The hero then walked away with the maid, thanking her for the guidance. Lapis, still crying, asked for another match, and said that this time she would go all out from the start. He declined, thinking he had been lucky, but probably avoided developing a bad reputation with her. He reflected that being able to activate the Koki Masamune sword was thanks to how much he had played Esko in his previous life, and that knowledge helped him dodge all the death flags. He was determined not to get caught up in the Yuri couple's drama and wanted to guide the story toward a world where the heroine could fully enjoy their Yuri. Lapis approached him again, and he gave up, accepting his loss. She denied that and accused him of trying to throw the match. He was lying down while Lapis sat on him with her bow and arrow. He asked her to cut him some slack. She urged him to just go all out. He felt really scared, thinking he was going to die, and already felt like giving up.